Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Dynamics GP Tips and Tricks Management Reporter. I'm Megan Turco, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we jump in, I'm going to briefly go over how to use the webinar console. The orange arrow on the right side of your screen will let you toggle the control tray open or closed. And at the bottom of that control tray, you will see a chat window. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time throughout the webinar via the chat function, and we will get to those during the Q&A towards the end. Additionally, on your GoToWebinar console, you should see an area for audio settings. If you're calling in through your telephone, please choose the Use Telephone option. Alternatively, if you're using your computer speakers, please select the Use Mic and Speakers option. Additionally, I do want to note that today's webinar is being recorded. We'll send out the slides as well as a link to the on-demand recording of the webinar within about 48 hours. So definitely keep an eye out for that email if you're interested in accessing the webinar after today or sharing it with any colleagues who couldn't join us live today. And with that, I would like to introduce today's featured webinar speaker. Greg Horner is a manager in Armanino's Dynamics GP practice. He's got over 24 years of accounting and payroll experience. Greg is a Microsoft certified professional in GP financials and has extensive knowledge in GP HR, payroll, and management reporter 2012. And with that, it's great to have you with us here today, Greg. I'm going to pass the presentation over to you to get us started.
All right, thank you, Megan. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to talk about management reporter in the sense of distributing reports. And you know, there can be other webinars or other classes, if you will, on how to build a financial report in management reporter. But today we're going to talk about just the different features of management reporter that differentiates itself from FRX in a way, and how you distribute reports. So some of the features of management reporter in this vein is you can distribute reports via the browser instead of directly of an application. You can utilize the trees to control who sees what information on a report, and you can also keep track of month-end reports in folders. And as we go through today, we're going to look at some basic security setups, things that are required to use those features, as well as using security in some of the report definitions. And we'll also look at security in the report viewer itself. So we're going to move over into a demo now, and we'll show my screen. And we are looking at just a basic first window that you see when you launch Management Reporter. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to show you how I've set up security as we walk through some of these examples. So I'm going to click on the security tab in the bottom left, and usually only administrators have access to this window. And here I have a list of 5 users. I'm classifying myself as the administrator, and I've selected 4 other people as viewers. A viewer is a security setting that allows someone to see a report that has already been produced or generated. So they really can't design a report or run it. They can only see ones that have already been done. And in this case, for much of you, that could be a department head or a CFO or someone who's not a management reporter on a normal basis. So I've set these users up, and in addition to that, I've set up some groups. So I've set up 3 groups: an accounting group, an administration group, and a marketing group out of those users. So just to show you real quick how to create a group, up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a new button with a little black down arrow there to the right of it. And I'm going to click that, and I'm going to select group. And you can go in here and you can just type in a test group, for example, and you click add, and you select which users you want to be part of that group. And you just hit OK and hit OK once again. And that's how you create a group. And that's what I did here. And if you want to see who's in a group, you can just hover your mouse over that group and then right click and select modify. And within that group, you can see the users that are a part of it. So that's what I did. I just went through and I created an accounting group, an administration group, and a marketing group. And in conjunction with that, I'm going to back out of here and I'm going to go to my report definitions. And I'm going to open up a income statement. This is just a standard income statement with a tree in place. And I'm going to click on my tree here in the bottom. And this is a tree is all a tree is just an additional filter based on when you're running the report. And what I've done is I've set up 3 branches, lack of a better term, of this tree, and I set up an administration group, an accounting section, and a marketing section. And I'm using the Fabricam database to filter which is which department. So I'm using the first segment, 000 is administration, accounting, I'm using 100, and for the marketing department, I'm using 200. And just to see just show you real quick what this report looks like, I've already generated it before, but it's just a basic income statement. It could be a little bit more bigger, but just for ease of demonstration, I just wanted to build a basic report. And if you go in the bottom left-hand corner and click reporting tree, you can see our different departments. Administration, I can go back and I can show accounting and so on and so forth. So that's the report we're going to be using. So I'm going to close that up. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up that tree. So the cells I want to highlight are over here on the right. And as I scroll right, there is a column over here called unit security. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build this report, and when I send this report out for other people to view, only the particular users that we call out in security will be able to see their respective department. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click the top line, which is a summary of all units here. I'm going to double click that. And since I'm the accounting department, and since the accounting department in this case has access to all the departments, I'm going to set up the accounting department to see everybody, to see everything. So I'm going to click users and groups here. So all I did was I just double clicked this top cell and I go to users and groups. And now I am presented with every specific user plus the groups. Now if I want to, I could select myself to be that could be the only user that has access to the whole reports, but it's more efficient and you're leveraging some of the features of Management Reporter by using the group instead. That way you can add and subtract people from the group, and then you don't have to keep on going back to the report and changing it if someone leaves the company or someone is hired. So I'm going to click accounting here, and I'm going to click OK. And what I'm also going to do is I want the accounting group to have access to all the departments there. So there's a button in the bottom left-hand corner called Add Security to Children Reporting Units. I'm going to select that guy. And I hit OK. It basically populates the accounting group for all the summary and the other segments of the report. So now I have access to all of them. So now I'm going to go to the next one, administration. So I'm going to double click it. As you can see, the accounting group is already in place. So I'm just going to add the administration group on top of that. So I'm going to click users and groups, click administration, hit OK. I'm not going to check that box this time. I'm just going to leave it just specifically for that particular row. Hit OK, and now I have administration and accounting can see that particular department. The 100 segment is accounting, so I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to keep that at accounting, and I'm going to go down to marketing. I'm going to double click it, use users and groups, and select marketing group. Hit OK. So there you go. So now when the report is complete, when you run the report, you can and send the report out. Only those users would be able to see that portion of the report. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to close this up. I am now going to generate this report to the report viewer. And this just is a little bonus. You may or may not know this, but there's two ways to view these reports. One is in a browser, and one's in a normal report viewer. To toggle back and forth between which one you want to see, you just go to Tools, Options, and there's a button here. It says Use Management Reporter Viewer as a default viewer. That means when I launch it, it's not going to come up in the browser, it's going to come up in the report viewer. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and generate that. And let that run a little bit. And as my browser comes up, now the report viewer is coming up, and now I'm presented with the same report, but in the report viewer. So now what I would normally do is, okay, I have a report. We have security on the administration group, the accounting group, and the marketing group. So I don't have to run a report specifically for the administration group, send an email. Write another report for the marketing group, send another email. What I can do now is I can just click email here, and it opens up. I guess I need to have my Outlook working. For it to appear. So now I have a link, and I can send an email out now. So when they receive the email, it'll look like this, and it'll just be a link just like this. So I'm just going to click on this, and the viewer, this is what they would see. So this, when the report goes out, that viewer does not have to have Management Reporter loaded on their machine. As long as they're set up as a viewer in Management Reporter Security, which I noted here, as long as they're set up here, they can view this report on their computer. They have to be logged into the network on the domain. They have to be within your network. They just can't be sitting at home on their computer and not the network. But if they're on the network, they can view this report right in the browser without Management Reporter. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to highlight another way to disseminate reports, and that is through like a shortcut link directly when you generate a report. So I'm going to I'm in the report. I'm going to Output and Distribution. Over here on the right is a link. Now normally, every time you generate a report, it goes to the report library. And the report library is, if I go back to the report viewer and I click on report library at the bottom left, here are all the reports that have been generated. There's our income statement right there that just generated. You can see there's a timestamp of September 23rd at 1:12 p.m. And so you can tell that that's the last time that report was run. So, however, there's a link here. you can set a shortcut link. Every time you generate this report, it can go to a particular location on your network and act as a shortcut to see that report we just generated. Now this path that's listed here, it has to be a UNC path. That means it needs to have a network name preceding the link. Your IT team at your respective companies can probably help you find what that name is in your particular network. You can't put like a D drive or a C drive into this field. It has to be a UNC path. So once you generate a report, it throws a shortcut link to that location. So I'm going to go find that particular location. I'm going to go to my computer and do my GP share, and there is the report right there. So if I double click that, it just opens up that report in a browser again. So that's the advantage. That report can be generated, and then when it's generated, it just creates a shortcut in a particular shared location for someone to double click. You don't have to email it. It's just created, and it's a shortcut there for anyone to access. Here at Armanino, for example, we do have some of our department heads. We have a report that is scheduled to run every night at 3 o'clock in the morning or something. And they come in, and that report is sitting there in that same location every day for them to view an updated report. And that can be scheduled in the report schedules here. So in this case, I went to income statement, I double clicked it, and I created a report that runs at 3:18 in the middle of the night every day. And that's another way to have that report regenerate every day so that whoever wants to see that report can just double click that link at their leisure. So we talked about 2 ways to disseminate a report. We've talked about how to kind of set that up, how to set up security. Let's backtrack a bit and go to the report viewer again and look at this window. Every time you run a report, it goes here. And if I look at the income statement and I right click it, there is a button there called Show Versions. If I click Show Versions, I can see every time that report was run. It ran today, it ran earlier today, it ran yesterday, the day before that, and so on and so forth. So I have a collection of different times that same report was run. In addition to that, what I've done on the library, I've set up 4 folders: accounting folder, marketing folder, and operations folder. So there's 2 ways to organize your folders. One is to organize them by department like I did there. Another way to organize them, and I've seen this most helpful, is I'm going to go to new folder and I'm going to enter, I don't know, April 2015. And I'm going to go into another one and I'm going to call it May 2015. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a folder for your month-end reports, for example. So every time you run your reports and you're satisfied that my income statement or balance sheet is the final financial statement, I can move those reports over to their respective folder appropriately. So in the case of April and May, you remember when we created that report that was specifically for that we're using the tree, that only the marketing department see marketing, only the administration department see administration. What we would do is we would place those reports in those folders. So I would go to library, go to my income statement, and I'm going to go show versions. This is, let's say this is the latest and greatest report right here at 1:12 p.m. I'm going to click move, and I'm going to move that report to April 2015. That's the final report. I'm okay with it. So now if I go to April 2015, my report is there. Now what I want to do is now is when I would actually email the link to the users while I'm in that folder. So when they click the link, they're not looking at the report that's in the main library, they're looking at the report that's in that specific folder. So in addition to that, when they get the report, they would only see their respective department. Now, in order for them to see that report within that folder, you would need to give them permission to see that folder. So to see the permissions for the folder, I'm going to click on that folder and select the permissions button up here. Now I can click on add, and I can select everyone to see that report. Now you're saying, well, why are you getting everyone access to that report? Well, remember, I'm letting that tree, the security within that tree, decide who can see what part of that report. But I can put the whole thing in that, I can have everyone have access to that folder as long as the reports in that folder have security within them. So that's kind of how I'm painting this particular environment. Now, I could also use accounting, marketing, and operations folders. And what I could do is I can go to accounting, click permissions, and as you can see, I've already given the accounting department permission to see that particular folder. I'm going to marketing, permissions. Marketing has permissions to that folder. The downside to that approach is that you would still have to create a specific report that's only marketing or a specific report that's only operations and place them in there. And that's not that efficient. I prefer the doing things by the date. But I just wanted to kind of paint those two scenarios for you and give you some ideas. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to share with you. There's one last thing I just wanted to point out, and this is with GP 2015. If I go into GP, you can set now, I think it's for GP 2015, if I go into my financial section, up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can actually link your management reporter reports here. So while I'm in GP, if I click on Management Reporter Reports, it basically gives you all the reports here that are also located here. So it doesn't quite, it's not quite as sophisticated with the folders, but you do have visibility into these same reports within GP itself as well through the navigation list. And if I was in GP and I wanted to see that report, I could just double click this guy and it would open the report up as well. So that's another way to see reports and share them amongst other users. That gives me about 5 minutes left. So we can open up the group to any questions. So I mean, during the webinar, we kind of viewed through. We went through and looked at the. Well, we didn't actually look at exporting reports to Excel today, but we did talk about the enhanced security and the better user experience for the end users. Now, I will point out here on this last slide is one reason why they don't use Excel as much is, this is why they built this type of distribution or this browser effect to disseminate reports, is with Excel, does give one the opening for tampering with financial data. So within the viewers, you really can't go in and change the data as you disseminate reports. And that's one reason why they came up with this approach from Management Reporter. All right. So
yeah, so thanks, Greg. So we do have a few questions here today. Our first question is there a migration utility for moving FRX reports to Management Reporter?
There is a migration tool. It can be easy or it can be difficult when you do a migration. There's a migration utility that comes with Management Reporter. When you install it, it's called the Migration Wizard. Some things convert fine, some things don't convert as fine. So, but 99% of the time, there's always something you need to kind of tweak once the migration occurs. But it's a lot better than having to recreate the reports from scratch in Management Reporter. And we can, if you go to Management Reporter, in some of I know there's some things on Customer Source that document the Migration Wizard in depth and how to do that.
Great. And also, so our next question is, are there any options for reporting on the security in Management Reporter, like to list users and which reports or trees or libraries they have access to?
No, there's not a specific report for that. The reports themselves are within the actual, when you log in, it's not a situation where you can say, okay, I can only see these reports or I can only see these reports. The security is specifically for reports that are already generated, and then from there you control who can see what. Now, you can control in security, like a designer, for example, you can prevent a designer from actually going in and run a report. Let's say your GP environment had 3 databases. You can prevent someone from actually seeing information in one database. But from a viewer perspective, if you want to control who can see reports that have already been generated, that security needs to be within the report viewer and within the folders of the report viewer to control who sees what report. So there's two layers of security. One is for the viewers. Security is specified in the report library under those folders, but from the designer perspective, someone actually building reports and generating reports, when you're setting up a user, that's where you can control who has access to what database. Hope that answered that question. But as far as a library of reports themselves, there's no real security around that.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. So we do actually have a few more questions, but it looks like we are just about out of time. So we will definitely be able to get to your questions offline after the webinar. So if you did ask something, don't worry, we'll definitely reach out to you with the answer. And then of course, if you do have any additional questions, you're definitely welcome to contact our team. We do have some contact information up on the screen here, but as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, we will also be sending out the links to the slides as well as an on-demand recording of the webinar in a few days here. So you don't have to worry about copying it down right now. We will definitely send that out to you. But thank you so much to our audience for joining us today, and to you, Greg, for being our great content presenter. For our audience, as you exit, there is a quick survey, so definitely take a moment to let us know your thoughts on today's webinar so we can continue bringing you some great educational content.
All right, thank you, folks.